We have breaking news now. You are seeing protests erupting in the Los Angeles area tonight as law enforcement squares off with crowds protesting immigration raids in the city. For 2 days in a row, the LAPD has used flashbangs and tear gas to clear demonstrators. The Trump administration is deploying 2,000 National Guardsmen, a move California's governor called inflammatory. And the FBI says it will investigate protesters for interfering with federal agents. Let's get to CNN's Julia Vargas Jones now, who's with protesters who've gathered in downtown Los Angeles. And Julia, what have you seen so far?
Hi, Brian. Look, we are here outside the federal building in downtown Los Angeles, where protesters are saying, they don't want ICE in Los Angeles. They're chanting out with ICE, release the people that have been arrested. There are about 118 people that were arrested, according to the Department of Homeland Security, in the several actions that took place in Los Angeles this week. Some of them here in downtown Los Angeles, 3 of them on Friday, and then again today in about an hour south of downtown Los Angeles in the town of Paramount. That is where we saw some quite stunning video of protesters, community members stepping in and kind of stepping in the way of federal immigration officers as they were staging for a potential raid there. Brian, we are also hearing the calls for the release of, you can hear it from David Huerta, a prominent activist and union leader here in Los Angeles that was arrested as part of these raids. The National Guard, we are expecting the National Guard to arrive in Los Angeles soon after President Trump authorized about 2,000 of them to come in. Now, we also did hear from Governor Gavin Newsom his statement saying that he thinks that this will only fan the flames of these protests, which right now are quite small, even though these images I know are striking. Not sure if we have those right now, but earlier today in Compton, just near Paramount, where these ICE presence was known earlier today, we saw a car set on fire. We could see protesters with Mexican flags setting that car on fire. That's, again, just an hour south of where we are. Just to give you that sense of how dispersed these actions are and how they are targeted, these specific locations where ICE raids are, or here where this detention center is, where some of the people that have been picked up in these raids have been brought to, Brian.
All right, Julia Vargas Jones, I want you to stay with me. I also want to bring in now CNN senior national security analyst Juliette Kayyem. Julia, if you're with me, you just heard Julia there describing the scene, but from the images that we've been putting on our air so far, what stands out to you at the moment?
So there's unrest. Let's start with there's protest. Lawful protest, which is allowed in this country. There is some unrest, generally dealt with by local law enforcement, and if there needs to be state support through state police, and sometimes even National Guard under a governor's authority. What is happening tonight is unprecedented in a variety of ways. Generally, when the National Guard is federalized to be deployed into a state, so understanding that it's called Title X federalization, and it means that the National Guard goes from reporting to the governor to reporting to the President of the United States. Generally, historically, when that's done, there's only 2 instances. One is when a state is overwhelmed. And so think Hurricane Katrina. I just looked up the numbers. In Hurricane Katrina, about 7,000 National Guard were federalized. So under just the comparison to 2,000 for a couple of hundred protesters, you can just get a sense of the sort of reaction that the Trump White House is having. The second type of instance where you would see a president ignore a governor's wishes is if the governor defies a court order. So that's Little Rock, the civil rights cases in which the president federalized the National Guard to allow to support the Supreme Court's decision. modern history hasn't seen something like this. And I think that's why Gavin Newsom and certainly our reporting from Josh Campbell regarding the concerns even in local law enforcement is now there's this federal overlay that is hostile to the sort of the way it generally works. And there's no training. We don't know what their rules of engagement are. We don't know why 2,000 have to be deployed. I'm looking at the pictures. I'm not minimizing civil unrest. Violence should not be used. It's against the law to disrupt a federal law enforcement action. But we have tools to do with this that are far less, let's just say, caustic than what Donald Trump has decided to do tonight. And I just want to put that in historical perspective. Some of our viewers will think that's right, but historically, this is not typical. And the numbers, when you just compare this to Hurricane Katrina, those of us who remember Hurricane Katrina, entire city and court system underwater, you get a sense of why Governor Newsom and local law enforcement are very concerned about what's about to happen.
I know California leaders had said that this will only inflame the situation. When you think of the historic nature of this, that this hasn't happened where there's been that transfer of power to the president from a governor since Katrina, is there any oversight for that situation in the aftermath to be able to look and say, was this done above bar? Was this legal? What's the situation there?
Well, one historical precedent is the LA riots. That was actually cooperative as well. And the after actions that I know very well, this is my space, this intersection between military, homeland, civilian, is that it was there, but for the grace of God was there not friendly fire. Because, look, our federalized troops are trained to do something, and that something is the use of force. They are not trained to de-escalate a political situation, civil unrest. The language that's being used by the White House, I'm from LA, I'm looking at people running errands. Like, this is not a city that is not able to function. And so the Trump White House has now lowered the bar. And so in terms of operational planning, we don't know how they will be deployed, what the rules of engagement are. Are they working or are they in conflict with the Los Angeles Police Department? This is a sophisticated department, quite large, and 2,000 troops. Again, is a lot. This is a significant number of federalized troops. Again, that number of federalized National Guard during Hurricane Katrina, a city that had lost 2,000 people, that could not function. Its courts weren't open. Its prisons weren't open. Its police force was not functional. You only saw the federalization of about 7,000 troops of the National Guard. So this is, and that was at the request of the governor. This is in defiance of a governor's request. So I do think there is a high likelihood that this will engage, incite a conflict. But my equal concern is without a sort of standard a process by which these 2,000 are deployed, rules of engagement, who are they working with? What's their mission? This is a bunch of protesters, but we know how to deal with that. In civilian society. So without editorializing, I just want to give the comparisons this is unprecedented. The numbers are large. The threat does not seem to be one in which the state has fallen apart, the city has fallen apart. If there are if criminality is ongoing in terms of disrupting a federal law enforcement effort, such as an immigration raid, those people ought to be arrested. But this is, I think, part of an overall reaching by the Trump White House to utilize federal military resources in civilian society without an insurrection, without a major flood, without a major crisis, and in defiance of political leadership there. And we'll see what happens overnight.
Juliette Kayyem and Julia Vargas Jones in Los Angeles.